So I think we should talk more about kind of Etsy and stuff like that, and more practical advice as well, because I think that's something that you really like doing, is like helping people. And you know the biggest mistakes people make, even probably more than me to a certain regard.
I guess so. Maybe more so now, but that's probably because I'm closer to maybe people that are more getting into it, like because I help out in the group. But like, I think the type of mistakes. So I guess probably a good segue. So when I started, like I said to you, I'd messaged you, kind of got involved, joined. So I joined EK, and my inherent laziness, which had led me down this path anyway, didn't disappear overnight. So it took over a month before I did a single thing. I remember literally where I was sat on the day, and I was just thinking, I was like, I've made a choice to join, to spend some money. You know, the amount's kind of irrelevant. You make a choice to spend anything, whether it's £10, £100, £1,000, doesn't matter. You make a choice to do something. You want something for it. And I was kind of like, I'm getting nothing for it, but it's because I'm choosing to get nothing for it. And I remember, I think you'd message me just because you always check in with people after they've joined. And I was like, oh, well, I was kind of this and I was kind of that. And you said, I might be paraphrasing. Essentially what you said was just fucking sell something. And I was like, I was talking to my friend and I was like, and he's right. I should just fucking sell something because, you know, it's e-commerce. So I did. And I started pushing more. So by this point, I think I'd been in the community, in the network. I don't call it a course. It's a network and a community over a month. So I finally started to do it. And my thing was still consistency was my issue. And I'll say this now as well. To this day, consistency continues to be my issue at times. And when I joined, I didn't have these visions of making thousands a month. In my head, I was like, if I can make a couple of hundred a month, that'll just give me enough to handle this buffer that I need. And then in my second month, I'd surpassed that anyway. So I was like, oh, this actually fucking works, you know? So then I was excited. And I also did another thing, which you said, don't do. So you said once before about don't tell people your ideas and your plans. You're doing it. It's like a dopamine hit. You're excited about telling people that you're going to do this big thing. And I was doing that, but I wasn't putting enough effort in to make that materialize, right? Sorry, I just sidetracked. But so I finally found some consistency, started making consistent money. Like by, I think the third or fourth month, I was then making more than most of my, I guess, real life friends, if you would call them that, would in a month. I was making just from this. Obviously, I have my job as well. So my combined cash flow actually was then suddenly really, really good. And we'll talk about that as well, because I think sometimes people want to get out of their job the second they can. If I was to, I do still have that job. If I was to leave that job, I'd have to be earning like a huge amount every month to do it consistently. And why would I cut my cash flow by that much?
And to do it safely, I think it's very different because
different points in life. Yes.
Yeah. It's like you have commitments, a lot more commitments than I have right now. Like,
yeah. And like, I think pushing yourself down that journey and being consistent and seeing the results. So then I'm a very results driven person. So I'm lazy until I see the result and then I push more. So then I started to push more. But another one of your things that you say, I'm just going to recite all these things that you've said over the last 10 months, but you talk about multiple stores. You talk about this, I ran my first 5.5 months with just one store because I had this thing in my head. Well, what I'll do is I'll get this one really big and then I'll, then that tomorrow. My problem has always been tomorrow is when I'll take action. It's always tomorrow that I'll take action. And the store I had was doing well. Anyway, finally decided, okay, let's open out to more stores. So I was excited. New niches. I started off in jewelry, as most people do. Let me go into new niches. Huge. I made so many mistakes. I didn't get pricing. I didn't look at quotes. I didn't look at shipping because I went straight from doing jewelry, which cost fuck all to ship, to doing like ceramic-based home goods, which cost a lot to ship. So I ran up like an 800 loss on this new store that I'd done, but like not really phased by it because I knew the concept was working. But yeah, it doesn't really matter about like the kind of mistakes you make along the way, as long as you're making kind of forward momentum towards the overall goal. It doesn't really matter like a small loss here, small loss there, as long as you're making forward momentum and understanding things more. Exactly. And one thing I found on this journey as well, my mindset about money has changed. So making a loss, keep in mind where I started, like financially, to go, oh shit, 800 in the red is like, I would have been like proper, oh, this is a problem. But like my mindset about money had started to evolve, because it's like, okay, if money is coming in, it's fine. It almost doesn't matter what's happening in the background. Is the money coming in covering the money that's going out? And for me, I had managed to get to that point. So I think exploring new niches, exploring new things, making mistakes. At this point, I was still up and down with consistency. And I don't know why, I was saying just before we started, I'd never booked a call with you. And I think it was this weird thing in my mind. It's like, oh, it's fine, I get it. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I didn't book a call with you. I didn't book a call with Oscar, part of your team, until I think I was like 6.5 months before. I just doing it on my own. I don't know why. I was active in the group and I was learning, because at the time when I joined, I think almost everyone that I'm about to list you've had on the pod, but David, Sal, Stuart, Glenn, like those are the guys who I was talking to every day. That you'd think I would have had a better mindset because those guys are driven. But I don't know. Like I still had this thing about, I know what I'm doing. I've got this, because I kind of felt, well, I'm just doing it on my own. And it was only after I had this call with Oscar and I'd built a few relationships within EK, which we'll also talk about, because for me personally, that's been the most important part of it. Then my mindset really shifted. And the good thing for me is that shifted just as Q4 was starting. And then everything just took a new direction. I remember messaging you, I think it was like mid-November, and I just said like, I think I'm paraphrasing, but it was along the lines of, everything that you said was possible is actually fucking real. Because, and to anyone watching, you may have these views, you never know how much of what you see online is real, right? Of course there's clickbait, of course there's marketing, the same way how if you buy something from a shop or from wherever, there's marketing involved, but you never know how much of it is real. And it kind of really became obvious to me, this really is. So then it improved a lot more. And then at the same time as that, I found I was getting better and smarter at what I was doing, because I was helping more. So the more I was helping people within EK, the more it's like, oh, I know that, I know this, I know that. And I was able to navigate things in a better way.
You kind of like double down. Yeah, you kind of think about it more when you're explaining it to someone else, because you got to explain it like the simplest form ever. And it allows you to dumb it down yourself rather than overcomplicating it. Yeah. Even recently, I've seen like a lot of kind of the a lot of the people that have been doing Etsy for a longer period of time are starting to like massively kind of almost overcomplicate it. And whereas people that are kind of coming in that have been in like 1, 2, 3, 4 months, they see it in a very simple form and they haven't overcomplicated it massively. So they see more success almost faster, because they aren't overcomplicating it. Like they keep it, they go back to the basics of they don't know anything advanced. So they're just thinking very literally, like, can I make profit with this one? But like, does it work? Yeah. Whereas people that have been doing it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like overcomplicating it massively. So when you're explaining to someone else, you have to make it so basic.
Yeah. I think, and it's interesting as well, because I went through that journey. At one point it was the whole, find what wins, finds what sells, and let's list those things, let's start selling and making money. And I was doing that. And then it got to a point in the late summer, whereas I went too much the other way. I wanted to find nothing but unique items. And I spent so much more time on product research, but losing a bit of connection to what's selling. So then I was putting loads of time in and not getting the reward because I was overcomplicating it. So then I think resetting those basics. And also, if I'm talking to someone brand new who's joined EK about the importance of be consistent, be patient, all of this, and I'm not being consistent myself, then I start to feel a bit like a fraud.
Yeah, you're speaking to yourself, yeah.
So then it's like, that helped me. And also building those relationships. There's people in EK who I'm friends with now. There's someone who, we've got a store together. We've also got a Shopify brand that we're working on. He should definitely come on the pod at some point. He has a really interesting story as well. But yeah, that networking aspect. So then we work, even though we're in different parts of the country, we actually work together most nights now. We're sitting like a Discord voice call and we're just working. We're not really talking, but it's like a mindset thing that you're just, okay, it's work time now till 2 a.m., 3 a.m.